Should your swing be the same for an iron and a driver? Well, that's a question I get asked as much as any other. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the truth about these two clubs, how they're similar, how they're different, and with the help of the Hackmotion wrist sensor, explain to you exactly how the wrist should work for both of these clubs. I promise that what you learn in today's video will likely change the way you think about hitting these two clubs forever. In my experience, the biggest confusion around iron versus driver is that you hit one of these clubs from the ground and the other one from a tee, and that changes the way the club is supposed to be delivered, specifically referring to the angle of attack. Some of you will understand that you're supposed to hit down with the fairway clubs, the irons, and you can hit up with the driver because it's teed up. That leads to a fundamental misunderstanding and poor concept on how to deliver these clubs to the ball. Let me explain. I've got two balls on the ground here. I've also got the stack and tilt grid built onto the ground using the T-claw to help you see some of the geometry here. As I look from the front camera and I set up to an iron, most of you will understand and accept that there should be some shaft lean when we hit the ball. And most people think that shaft lean is really angle of attack. They think it means you're going to hit down at the ball. And to that extent, when it comes to setting up to the driver, which is further forwards in our stance, a lot of the time you're told to do a couple of things that are very detrimental. Number one, lean your upper body back behind the ball. Number two, have your hands behind the club head. This reverse shaft lean, the shaft leaning away from the target, is in some quarters said to help you hit up on the ball. I would disagree with that strongly. Shaft lean backwards doesn't help you necessarily to hit up on the ball. What it does do, however, is encourage you to swing out to in and across the ball. This is why so many golfers with the driver slice and yet can hit their irons much straighter and even draw them on occasion. So shaft lean is not angle of attack. In fact, as I go through this video, you'll see that shaft lean is really the path of the swing. So if you take nothing else from this video at this first juncture, I want you to understand that you do not need to have your hands behind the club head or your hands behind the ball in order to hit up on your driver. So in order to see some of the potential differences or similarities with these clubs, let's hit some shots. I'll start with the iron. I've got a 7-iron here. This really applies to any shot from the ground where, as I've already mentioned, most of you will be familiar with the concept that we're supposed to hit slightly down at the ball in order to get the right contact. That's because the ball's on the ground. We need a slightly descending angle of attack. Some of that is built in at setup by where we place the ball relative to the lead shoulder. You'll see how I have this angled radius here with the T-claw. So that's the shaft lean and hands forward that we don't just set up with, but in an iron shot we want to return that back to the ball. I think a lot of you would be familiar with that concept if you've studied any swing theory or if you've taken many lessons. So this bit shouldn't be too new for you, but I'm going to go ahead and hit some shots anyway and just show you the pattern of movement we can expect with a good iron swing. Contact felt pretty good there. Slight overdraw, slightly pulled it to the left. Let's see what the Hackmotion has to say. We've got a slightly flexed wrist at the top, but a perfectly in range wrist at impact. There's something that I want to really draw your attention to there as we pull that up onto the screen, is the fact that when I started my swing, my lead wrist was in 17 degrees of extension. That means in a conventional neutral grip, there's a little bit of cupping in the lead wrist. That would be correct, and that would be consistent with a fairly neutral grip. You'll see at the top there that I'd moved that grip and that lead hand from a position where it was extended into one where it was very, very slightly flexed. You could even argue that it was flat. So that says that in the backswing, there's a slight twisting of this club and this grip to flatten the wrist. And then when I hit the ball, I had 9 degrees of flex. That's even more flexion than I had at the top. And that 9 degrees of flex is 26 degrees more of flex than I started with. That's 17 degrees of extension. If we set that up on the avatar, that's 17 degrees of extension at setup, and by the time I hit the ball, there was 9 degrees of flex. That's a nice amount of flexion to add to the wrist. That helps me to hit down, deliver less dynamic loft, increase the ball speed, and make it more likely that I don't only hit the ball first and the ground second, but I get that lovely compression off the club face that helps me to hit the ball far. That's the pattern we'd want to see in an iron. Extended at setup, more or less flat at the top, and then moving into more flexion as we hit the ball. That would be consistent with good iron players and good ball striking. For some of you, you may think that's different with a driver. I think it's time that we hit one and find out if that's true. So, standard driver swing. First one there. Pretty similar type of shot shape that I would expect to see. Bit of a draw. We take a look at the Hackmotion and we have quite similar numbers. This may surprise you. We have the lead wrist slightly extended at setup still, consistent with my neutral grip. We get to the top and the wrist is flat. There's no real extension or flexion there, which is the same that we had with the iron. And then when I hit the ball, I have the wrist in pretty much the same condition as I had it at the top. So not quite as much flex, but at the same time, I'm certainly not letting this club head and shaft overtake my hands in order to help me hit up on the driver, which many of you will think you're supposed to do. That's an interesting concept that I'd like many of you to consider, because what you're often trying to do with the driver, trying to hit up by letting the club head overtake your hands, isn't helping your driver at all. In fact, I would tell you that it's making it much, much worse. So let me go ahead and hit one of those and show you what I mean. A lot of you will fall into this camp, I promise you. I see this on a very regular basis. Mistakes, common mistakes made with the driver. You're setting up with the ball more forward. That's okay, but you're doing so often by leaning your upper body back behind the ball and also with your hands behind the club head. This might be something you've been told to do, so I'm going to tell you need to stop that, and I'll demonstrate as to why. Hands behind the ball, this reverse shaft lean, if you like, upper body back as well, is going to encourage me to swing across the ball. My expectation here is this ball is going to slice, and yet many of you are trying to do this in an attempt to roll or square the club face to hit a draw, and also to try to lift the ball up into the air or help it with an upward angle of attack. I think these numbers are going to surprise you. So setting up in the incorrect position, handle back, weight too far back, and I'm going to make sure that I try to deliver the club back to the ball where the club head is overtaking my hands. This is the picture I'm trying to recreate. Let me go ahead and hit one of those. I tried really hard there to make that club release through impact. The release that so many of you are trying to do. Look at that golf shot. Look at that slice. Look how poor that golf shot is in terms of shot direction, shot shape, distance. That's dropped over 50 yards. That's a terrible golf shot. And yet I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do, releasing the club head past my hands. Many people will tell you that this should help you hit up on the ball. I want you to take a look at that angle of attack number and notice how that's 2.5 degrees down. I hit down with the club head going past my hands. So many mistakes that you're making with the wrists when it comes to the driver that you have no idea about. Also on the Hackmotion app, you'll also notice that while starting in some extension, which has been consistent with all of the shots, you'll see that at the top, I had a lot of extension still in place, which is not going to help me. And as I came down, although I recovered and took some of that extension out, I never made it to a point where I had the club face closed enough. So there's a clear pattern of good movement in the wrists with both the irons and the driver. They're a lot more similar than they are different. I'm going to just recap on these points so that you have something to practice next time you go to the driving range. So whether you're hitting an iron or a driver, the patterns are the same. We're going to start in some extension. If you have a relatively neutral grip, that should be easy for you to obtain. At the top of the swing, that lead wrist is going to move to some flatter condition. We'll use flat as a reference. And as you swing down, once again, whether you're hitting driver or iron, you want to have more flex in that lead wrist and not let that club shaft go past your hands. Having that shaft lean helps you to swing into out for longer, reduces the propensity to slice the ball and increases the likelihood of you hitting a draw. The other thing that confuses a lot of people is they think that having shaft lean makes you hit down on the ball. Let me just show you how that is not the case. That's more of my standard procedure with the driver. Push, tiny little draw curve on the golf ball. I hit up 4 degrees on that shot. I hit up 4 degrees. Look at the pattern on the wrists again. 20 degrees of extension at setup, 1 degree of extension, effectively a flat wrist when I hit the ball. 20 degrees to 0. That's shaft lean that's helping me to hit up on the ball, helping me to swing more to the right, into out, helping me to draw the ball and helping me to hit the ball far. Please, if you take nothing else away from this video, understand that shaft lean with the driver is not bad. In fact, it's the opposite. Shaft lean with the driver helps you to swing out at the ball for longer, helps you to hit that lovely draw shape and adds distance to all of your shots. One final very important point before I finish. As the clubs get longer, your swing speed increases. Most of you will be familiar with that concept. What you may not appreciate at the same time, that extra length of club and extra speed of swing creates more force that you have to deal with in the swing, meaning that these wrist angles want to get thrown out earlier. Simple way of putting that is it's easier to hit your short irons, your pitching wedge or your 9-iron and maintain or sustain the necessary shaft lean than it is with your driver. That's because the forces at play with this longer club are trying to throw these wrist angles out longer. So whilst the message here is that the wrist movement for the iron and the driver is far more similar than it is different, it's fair to say that as an individual you'll need to feel more shaft lean with the driver than you do with an iron. And again, that can be quite an upside down way of thinking about this concept. All this time you've thought that the irons are supposed to have more shaft lean and the driver's supposed to have less. And yet in terms of a feel for a player, because the forces are greater on this longer club, you actually need to feel like you sustain the shaft lean in the driver for longer than you do in your pitching wedge. Give that a try next time you practice. It's absolutely vital you get your wrist conditions under control if you want to improve not only your ball striking, but your ball control, the direction that your shots fly. The Hackmotion wrist sensor truly is an amazing product if you want to measure what's going on at the wrist level. There's so many functions and features to this product now as they continue to evolve it over time. It's not just a full swing device, it's also going to help you with your putting as well. I wanted to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel to continue to grow, and I'll keep making videos like this for you every single week. If you want to learn more about the Hackmotion wrist sensor, then I'll put some details down in the description of this video where you can click and receive a small discount if you decide to purchase this product. The next place you should go if you've enjoyed watching this video would be this one that I made right here, which talks about the control of the forces in the swing. I referenced those right there at the end of this video. As the forces in the swing increase, you need to be able to control them. If you want to learn how to do that to enhance your ball striking like never before, then this is the video you should go and watch next.